Walker over to Reed. Finding Edwards, driving. Oh, get out the way! Oh, the steal. Highlight. Oh, the windmill.
Things you mentioned in the New Orleans game that you were, how about that move?
Anthony Edwards!
With the insane athleticism that he possesses, Anthony Edwards is turning out to be one of the most lethal young guns in today's NBA. And if you follow him closely, there are actually a couple of games in his young career in which he convinced the entire world that he's a bad man. I mean, one of which was on the night of March 3rd, 2021, when they faced the Phoenix Suns. In this particular game, Edwards was feeling it out in the early parts of the game by hitting some warm-up jumpers and a couple of triples.
He gave respect to Edwards. He figured he would try to attack him.
Speaking of health reports, is he
the preseason when he was lights out?
Edwards testing the...
Then, after revving it up, Ant-Man put on a special show to delight the crowd.
Edwards, the exclusive ball handler, look out!
With his group, throwing it off the backboard.
Rubio with his... Here's Edwards.
And to wrap things up, he finished it off with a bunch of and ones that he made look easy.
Early last season as Edwards on the drive, gets... Edwards able to slip inside, get the finish.
When the game was over, Edwards racked up 42 points on 15 of 31, shooting from the field along with 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals to help the Timberwolves grab a 123-119 win over Phoenix. Now, aside from his explosion in that game, Ant-Man had another statement game back in 2021, and this time around, it was against the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, right off the bat, Edwards wasted no time in making his presence felt with this thunderous throwdown.
Board, maybe I could push it and get some fast break points.
Just like this. Oh my goodness.
Then afterward, he let his inner Steph Curry take over by splashing a string of long-range bombs.
Twitter will let us know. Edwards for 3.
Oh.
Edwards fires from deep and connects.
And knocking him down.
Edwards looking for another.
And when the defense tightened the screw against him, Edwards switched gears and got back into attacking inside.
How about that?
Wolves with all kinds of numbers. D-Lo for Edwards. Edwards gets into the paint. Anthony
To protect the rim.
Edwards.
After 4 quarters, Ant had an efficient game by scoring 42 points while missing only 5 shots from the field and just 1 from 3-point range. On top of that, he also added 7 assists and 6 rebounds to fill up the stat sheet. Anyway, while that performance solidified Ant as one of the premier young guns in the league, it doesn't top off what he did on the night of January 22nd, 2023. Against the Rockets, Edwards set his sights on a big game early on by cooking up a bunch of points while showcasing his deep offensive bag.
Game against Rudy Gobert early on that didn't do anything in the second half as Ant explodes again. Dusting things just like Nate Knight does.
That's what you wanted.
Are actually last in the league in effective field goal percentage is Anthony Edwards.
But if there's one guy who would definitely not forget this night, then it has to be Alperen Şengün. Because Ant made sure about it by putting him on his poster not just once, but twice in this particular game.
As sharp as they need to be defensively. Edwards! Oh! Edwards driving. Oh! How's your wife? Grand larceny from Anderson. Russell left it for Edwards!
In the end, Edwards racked up another 44-point game on 17 out of 29 shooting from the field, 8 of 16 from the 3-point line while adding 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals on the side to lead the T-Wolves to victory, 113-104. Anyway, moving on here. When the Dallas Mavericks visited the T-Wolves on their home floor this season, Luka was not around to accompany them in that particular game due to injury. Despite this being the case, Edwards didn't give the Mavs any sort of leeway, as he went all out right from the get-go. I mean, he showed his full offensive arsenal in the first half with his flurry of moves.
Kick out to Edwards. Edwards, working on Derrick Jones Jr. down the lane, hanging, and turns opposite shoulder. That defensive sequence, all Ant taking it the other way.
And then in the second half, Ant finished them off by raining a bunch of threes to seal the game for good.
Stolen by Nunn. Edwards, pull up 3, can
do that. And it's been a great thing for Minnesota. I'm not saying it's been a bad thing. It's been a great thing.
From 3, they were red hot early in this ball game. Little step back from Edwards.
Once again, Edwards had another 44-point explosion in this particular game while shooting 12 out of 23 from the field and 6 out of 11 from distance. He also racked up 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block to carry the T-Wolves on his back for another big win. Now, since we're talking about the big games that Edwards had throughout his career, there's nothing quite bigger than the game that fell on the night of November 10, 2021. I mean, in this particular game against the former champs, Edwards quickly got to work by showing the Dubs his hang time as well as his aerial mastery.
Edwards finds an extra gear.
Video, one of the areas where Steph Curry is so unbelievable.
Golden State. Anthony Edwards on the attack, and
Doesn't necessarily do.
Edwards! Oh, Anthony Edwards!
And after he left the crowd stunned with his Michael Jordan-esque moves, Edwards treated them to a bunch of highlights to send the paying customers home happy.
Slow down the Warriors' offense, though. They get a stop there. Edwards out in front, and Edwards gets a hand on it. He's got Russell with him. Back to Edwards!
Although he got upstaged by Andrew Wiggins and the T-Wolves lost in that game, Edwards' performance wasn't that bad at all, as he dropped 48 points on 59.3% shooting from the field and 53.8% from downtown, and he also snatched 6 rebounds, dished out 5 assists, and added 2 steals to show that he's extremely dangerous. Now, out of all the games that he played in his career, there's definitely no bigger than this next one, because in this next game, Edwards cemented himself as a certified offensive killer who can light it up from anywhere around the court. I mean, in their matchup against the San Antonio Spurs on April 7, 2022, Edwards started hot by dropping these tough buckets.
Jordan McLaughlin and Jaden McDaniels check in for the Timberwolves, and Anthony Edwards finishes. Okay.
That is rock and roll immortality right there.
Edwards. That three-pointer ended Minnesota's 8-0 run. Towns finds Edwards cutting to the basket.
Then when the third quarter opened, he surprised everyone by leaping out of the building with this monster jam.
The differences of drop coverage, especially when you have, oh my goodness, Anthony Edwards!
Now, following that big poster dunk, Edwards would work his way offensively by hitting these in-rhythm threes.
Minnesota starts the fourth quarter up 15 on the Spurs. Oh, what a crossover by Edwards! Edwards steps to the side and hits it again!
And to close things out, Ant just obliterated the Spurs inside the paint. And even if they put a couple of bodies in front of him, he was still able to get around them using his nifty footwork.
Yes, he
Under
is.
20 because he came into the league so young.
Right, but there's a lot of guys that have been single-digit game. Minnesota had to hold on.
Oh, he got
Against the pre-Wembanyama San Antonio Spurs, the Ant-Man dropped a career-high 49 points, while knocking down 16 out of 28 shooting from the field and 6 out of 14 from the three-point range. Apart from that, he also added 8 rebounds and 6 assists too, in 39 minutes of play. Now, when Greg Popovich was asked about Edwards' performance right after the game, the multi-champion coach had nothing to say but praise to Ant, saying he's a former #1 overall pick for a reason and he's a hell of a player. I think he was #1 pick in the draft, so that would indicate there's something there, said Spurs coach Greg Popovich. He's a hell of a player. Anyway guys, which part of his offensive game do you think makes Anthony Edwards so dangerous on the basketball court? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this next one to find out what happens when you mess around with Anthony Edwards. Go ahead and click it. It's free.